So if you've ever read the Bible, you'll know that there are some pretty shocking things in there. For example, King David has an affair and then murders her husband to cover it up. Or what about Abraham sleeping with his wife's servant? So the question a lot of people ask is, well, does this mean that because those things are in the Bible, and some of them even carried out by great heroes of the faith, does that mean that they're okay? That things like adultery or polygamy are fine? And we might be tempted to assume that it does mean that. For example, the other day I bought a new camera, and it came with a pretty extensive instruction manual telling me what all the buttons do and how to operate it. And some people just kind of assume that the Bible is like that, but it's simply a religious instruction manual telling us what we are to do or are not to do. But actually, whilst the Bible does contain certain commands and rules, it's also far more than that. The Bible is primarily a story, a narrative. And it's the history of God's interactions with humanity. And so in a sense, it's less like an instruction manual and more like a biography, detailing for us who God is and what God has done. And like with any good biography, it's honest and it's true. And it doesn't just tell us when people did well, but also when people made terrible mistakes and when they got things utterly wrong. And so then just because the Bible gives us an account of someone doing something, that doesn't mean that it's telling us to go and do likewise. But then we might say, well, that's all well and good, but I'm really not into studying history. I don't enjoy reading biographies. So why should I bother with the Bible? And I think the answer to that is that because within this great story, we do actually find the answers to all of life's big questions. They might not always be clear and obvious, and they aren't presented to us like a Wikipedia article, but they're in there. So let's go back perhaps to one of those earlier examples. What about polygamy? Doesn't the Bible endorse that? Well, perhaps this might come as a shock, but actually there's no place in the Old Testament where it specifically says people can't have more than one wife. That's not spelt out in there. But if we read the story, if we dive into this narrative, we see that whenever someone does enter into that kind of relationship, the consequences are always negative, ranging from harmful gossip and jealousy to attempted murder and outright war. So even though the answer might not be as black and white as we'd expect, the Bible is certainly giving us a pretty big clue about how we're to live, isn't it? So remember, the Bible, it's not just an instruction manual, it's not a Wikipedia article, it's a story. But it's a story unlike any other. A story not just written by men, but written by God himself. And a story that contains all the answers that we'll ever need to find.